And board. Awesome. Well, welcome. So Charity Phillip, are you on?
Good
There we
morning.
are.
Yes,
Charity
I'm
is with
here.
211. We're excited to have you today, Charity. I'll let you go
Thank you,
ahead and take the
Annie.
stage. Thank you.
I'm actually gonna keep my camera off, if that's okay, but I'll share my screen. Um, all right, one sec here. I'm not really a tech savvy on Zoom. So let's see. Share screen.
Yeah, you should have share screen privileges. Let
Yes.
us know if we can support you. Great.
Okay. Can you guys let me know if you can see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I usually do like an hour to 45 minutes type of presentation, but I'm gonna try my very best to keep it short. Uh, so my name is Charity Phillip, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Portland Metro region. I oversee Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County with 211 Info. And I have my information here. I'm very responsive with emails more than phone calls because I have my work phone connected to my personal phone. So sometimes I miss the calls and stuff. So feel free to send me an email if you have any questions or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So uh, 211, we are a nonprofit. Uh, it's a statewide, but our 211 we cover the whole state of Oregon, including Southwest Washington. So we cover 36 counties in Oregon and 4 counties in Southwest Washington. Uh, and 211 is a local nonprofit organization that provides information to community members about community resources relating to health and human services. And we receive funding through the state agencies like ODHS and OHA and legislature appropriations. We were also funded by healthcare agencies such as Kaiser, Columbia, Pacific Seasonal Health Share. Um, oops. Oh, sorry. And some county funding through Multnomah County and Clark County. Uh, So with 211 being an FCC number, it's an easy to remember and universally recognizable number that makes it easier for individuals and families in need to have better access to resources, as well as community-based organization and government agencies. So we're kind of similar to 311, the other numbers, 911, but 211 is for resource and referral. So we're kind of like a database where uh, we have like those agencies within the whole state of Oregon, including Southwest Washington. Uh, and it's kind of like the first stop shop for people to come in, like when they're looking for like food pantries and other resources. Um, and why do people call 211 is to get information on resources that we have in our database. Our staffs are certified. Or the process of getting AIR certified. AIR stands for Accreditation Information Services, which is a program that creates certification on how to take phone calls, how to properly take and handle the phone calls we take, and how to appropriately ask the demographic question that we normally ask our callers. And the demographic questions are totally optional. We don't ask for like personal information unless you're getting transferred to like a specialty program and they need to, submit your information for a specific program. But yeah, we don't ask for social security, your address, name and last name. We only ask for like the zip code and some other questions to help the extension of our search. And here's how you can contact us. Our call center is open 24/7 for the state of Oregon. You can just simply dial 211 or call the toll-free number, which is the 866 number. You can also text your zip code to this number. or send an email to help@211info.org, and somebody will reach out to you within 24 to 72 hours. Or you can also visit our website. I'm not really going to have time to do a demo on the website and the app, but if you ever have any question or you're helping somebody, feel free to reach out if you have any question. Uh, our uh, our website actually now we're still updating our website, but it now has like 30 languages available, so you can translate. Let's say you're helping somebody that English is their second language, you can actually try to see if the language that they speak is available on the website, and you can use that to translate like you just click the earth sign, which is on the top right corner, I think, and you'll be able to translate all the information on the website. And you can also download our app. We also have language interpreters available by phone, text, and email in English and Spanish. And programs ours varies based on the program, like our specialty programs. And here shows our four capabilities. We have our contact center. They're the one who pick up the phone and help with finding information for our callers. We also have our resource database team. Our resource database, like I mentioned earlier, house 40 counties, 36 counties in the whole state of Oregon, and 4 counties in Southwest Washington. They're the ones who handle most of the data work for our agencies. Then we have our community engagement team, which is my job. I'm one of the community engagement coordinators for 211 Info. Uh, we are the one who help bring in new agency into our database. We do presentation like this one that I'm doing right now. We attend collaborative meetings or monthly meetings, do outreach, attend events, do tabling events, and last but not least, our data and reporting team. They're the ones who reviews our overall data. They look at what or which community have been reached, which resources are being used frequently and not frequently used, also look at the most requested needs that are met and not met. And that will allow our community engagement coordinators like me and my team to engage with agencies within those communities. So we are locally based community engagement coordinators. Um, yeah. I'm not going to really have enough time to go through each of the specialty program, but if you have any question, just feel free to reach out. I'm just gonna share something more important. Like right now, we have like some updates. We are working diligently with our emergency management department to partner with regions right now dealing with wildfires, extreme heat weather. We are also starting to prepare for back to school season and related events, as well as looking towards fall, winter, and being ready and updated with agencies in our database for the transition to that weather season as well. Also, our childcare and MCH teams are always working to connect with and build their database as far as providers and agencies. Our statewide housing programs are expanding in specific counties with additional support for working with those dealing with houselessness issues. Uh, but yeah, if you have any questions regarding each of these specialty programs, feel free to reach out. I'm always like responsive via email. And then we have our resource teams that work diligently on updating our annual updates. We constantly reach out to the agencies that we have in our database to make sure their info is up to date and accurate. So our annual update is 99% accurate, and we have 2,500 plus agencies that are listed and 29,500 plus resources available in our database. We have our internal process where we meet with our resource team. So let's say like an agency, like they have to update their information yearly, but if something change, like they have full access to go in and actually update their information. Let's say like the phone number, their hours of operation change, they can go in and or reach out, and then somebody will send them like kind of like a direction on how to go in there and update their information. Right. And last but not least, I kind of want to just speak a little bit to our community engagement team. The core of our work consists of presenting, sharing, educating, and teaching our community partners and agencies about the way 211 info works and how to access resources. We also work to spread the knowledge of our contract partners in order to create collaborative relationships that allows folks to assist in connecting community members with the resources and social services they may need. In addition to that, we work to support the resource team in creating and updating and building our database while maintaining the health of our records. And finally, and definitely not least, we also support during high call volumes and emergency activation. Right now, we are actually activated, so any other teams is also helping out on the phone. We ensure that as an agency, we are able to keep the wait time low for our callers, because without them, we would cease to exist. Our work is active and exciting. We also greatly enjoy the role we play in keeping our entire 211 ship afloat. Feel free to reach out to any of us with questions about what we do and at any time. And thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charity. Are there any questions for Charity or regarding 211 that anyone might have? Okay. And Charity, I know sometimes folks struggle to access the appropriate services via 211 on behalf of their clients, or their clients at times can struggle. Where should they kind of take that struggle or that challenge? Should that be directed to you directly if they are struggling to have a service met, or is there a general 211 hotline outside of this help one that folks can use?
So if it's if an agency is like helping a client,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
if depending on where they're located, like if for the Portland Metro, like our community engagement coordinators, we are locally based. So if it's somebody in the Multnomah County, you would reach out to me. But if it's that client, they will have to send the email to the help@211info.org, because the email, it gets sent over to our inbox. And if that need, we have like a team, like a text team, an email team. If that need is actually falls under one of the specialty program, then somebody from that specialty program will be able to respond to that
Okay.
email.
So is it
Yeah,
better to email than text? Is that what I'm hearing, or did I misunderstand that?
both.
Okay.
I think email is more kind of better because it gets sent over to the main inbox, and then like I said, if it falls under one of the specialty program, then somebody will from that program, a specialist from that program will reach out to that person directly.
Okay. And
Mhm.
if someone's trying to find a contact in Clackamas County, or, another county that is similar to the role that you play, could they email you and you would give them that information of who that point person might be?
They can
Okay.
also email me, or they can contact our call center directly too.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Annie.
Thanks for this information and for the opportunity to share this important program. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions before we sign off with Charity? Well, you're more than welcome to stay on, but before we move on. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And Charity, I put your information in the chat, so if anyone has any questions to follow up with you directly. Thank
Okay,
you so
awesome.
much for
And I can
being here.
also send you my the copy of my slide in case you
Great.
want to share it out there. And I also have a like a survey, if you guys can please feel free to fill it out when
You bet. You
yeah,
bet.
thank
Awesome.
you.
Yep. I'll add that in the follow-up if you have a chance to
Uh-huh.
send that. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. And next up, we have Shane Skinner from Maybell Center for Community. And for those of you that don't know the Maybell or aren't familiar with Maybell Center, it's their mission is to disrupt social isolation amongst self-identified low-income residents of downtown Portland. Also a call to service organizations to consider a partnership with us. That was kind of what Shane sent over. So thank you so much, Shane. Welcome, and I'll let you take it away. Thanks
Well,
for being
thanks so
here.
much. I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me take time today. I don't have slides for you, so it'll just be me and my face today. And like Annie said, our mission is around disrupting social isolation in downtown Portland. We are currently in the middle of a rebranding, and so we'll have new language around our mission soon, but we're running with that. We've been around in downtown Portland since 1991. We were started by a Catholic priest who conducted some surveys downtown to see how he could best be of service. And what he learned was that social isolation was one of the #1 problems he was finding amongst folks who lived in downtown. So our service area is our borders are the river and the 405. And so that entire area from the Pearl all on down to South Portland, we serve that entire area. Although we do make exceptions for folks who live outside of that area if they feel like they'd be a good fit for us and us for them. We're moving our language away from disrupting social isolation and towards building a space for belonging and connection. That's what speaks the loudest and clearest to our membership. We believe that every person matters and that they have something remarkable to share with others. Since we've started in 91, we work alongside our neighbors to disrupt social isolation. So whether you live in our housing, we have 2 buildings that we manage. We have the McDonald Residence, which is a assisted living facility that is 100% federally funded through Medicaid, which makes us a bit of a unicorn. We have our community room, which acts as a bit of our community center, which is where I spend most of my time. And we also have McDonald West apartments, which are low-income apartments, and we're all right next to each other. So our community room is sandwiched between the assisted living facility and the affordable living apartments. So whether you live in one of our buildings or one of the 40+ affordable housing units or buildings in Portland, you can have access to spaces like our community room, where our members can be themselves, and we help support an environment where they know their presence matters. Because regardless of who you are or where you are, meeting our basic human need for connection and belonging should be accessible to everyone. That's what we believe here. We have a lot of ways that we work towards a sense of connection. Like I said, we have our community room, which is open 4 days a week with limited hours, but we have lots of coffee. We serve Marigold Coffee. We have a partnership with them. We have weekly events like bingo. We have a movie night on Fridays. And then we have semi-regular activities like karaoke, a monthly birthday party, stuff like that, all in our community room, as well as group outings to the various gardens nearby, or to see a movie, or just to walk to the river waterfront. Our oldest program, what we started with, is a social visitation program. And we have over 100 volunteers who will go to our members' apartments and visit with them once a week for about 30 minutes. And for some folks, this is the only social engagement they get, right, outside of just running into people they might live next to. And it's one of the programs we're most proud of. That over the years has expanded to also include university students and nursing students who come to our center. They will also do social visitation with our members, and that's a great way for our members to feel like they're engaged in improving the healthcare system by working with potential nurses and showing them what real life looks like outside of school. And it helps the nursing students to gain experience working with everyday people before they get into the workforce. We also offer spiritual health counseling. We're not a religious organization, even though we were founded by a Catholic priest. We are not religiously affiliated in any way, but we do offer spiritual counseling, which is a one-on-one counseling opportunity. We also have some of our volunteers who will do spiritual counseling in their social visits if they are, have the recommended, requirements and background to do that. Also, through spiritual health, we will hold memorial services for any of our members who pass away or any of their friends who pass away in their buildings. A lot of these folks may not have a lot of family, or the family doesn't have resources to provide a memorial service. So that is one of the services we do provide, which is also probably the most meaningful thing I think that we do. In our community space and with any of our members, we have I think we're at 330 active members currently. And by active, we mean they've engaged with us in the last 12 months. But we work with them to help navigate resources or connect them to resources. We are not a service organization, but we will work alongside someone to try to navigate the complicated system of connecting to resources they need, whether that is just how to use this website. Who do I call? Can you call them for me? We also, let's see, we also have all sorts of annual programs and events. This Thursday is our biggest social program, actually, is our Wildwood outing. We're going to be taking over 100 of our members via bus out to the Mount Hood Wildwood area for a day of a day hiking and games. We provide lunch, and it should be quite a bit cooler up there. So there's a bit of a refuge from all this heat. We also have an active community choir that performs with a number of different choruses in the area. And they meet once a week to rehearse. Anybody in the community is welcome to be a part of that choir. We're building a theater program. We last spring, we wrote a melodrama with our new theater troupe that has named themselves the Fairly Odd Theater Troupe. And we created this ridiculous and very wholesome melodrama and filmed it. It'll be on YouTube very soon. But we got to have a screening where we projected it on the big screen, and it was really well received by our audience. I feel like I'm forgetting stuff here. As you can see, we're kind of a unicorn. We do a little bit of everything. We try to have something for every one of our members or potential members. And for this group, we also have a number of openings. We are located in Old Town Chinatown, which is kind of a scary place for a lot of folks. There's a lot of reality down here. You can't escape the reality of what we're going through in Portland when you're in Chinatown and Old Town, and it scares a lot of folks away. But this group, as big of, I know your hearts are also big, otherwise you wouldn't be in this network. But please consider or share that we are hiring for a couple of really great coordinator roles, a member support role, and a role that will have to do a lot with perceptions and taking surveys and making sure we're on the right track to serve our membership in the way they want to be served. So let's see. I think that's kind of the edited short version of what we do here. And I'll go ahead and open it for questions because there's normally quite a lot of questions when I give my elevator pitch.
I love it, Shane. Thank you. Are there any questions for Shane?
Oh, and I don't have slides that can.
Let's see. I think it's blurry.
It's blurry because it's not a face. Oh,
there you go. Maybe, yeah, maybe put it in the chat. Yeah, perfect.
No worries.
Awesome. Yeah, I found that really interesting because I didn't know all that the Maybell Center has. The program seems like it's expanding the offerings, and the choir and theater troupe and hiking, like all of those things are, as we age, our kind of circle of influence or our circle kind of gets smaller and smaller, and you can see how folks go into isolation, especially coming out of COVID and maybe being fearful of still connecting with others, just not having that it's just hard to kind of move back into that world sometimes and comfort, especially if maybe you have an illness or something that you're sensitive to. And so I just love all the offerings that you're kind of expanding into. They're super important and just involve a lot of happiness and movement, and those are all really important. So thank you for all the work you do. It looks like we have a couple questions. Preston had just said, definitely looking forward to referring some participants. And so with that, I have a question. I know you said that you have specific complexes or specific housing units, but folks don't have to be living in those housing units to participate. What do they need to do to participate?
Thank you. That was the thing that was, as you were talking, like, oh yeah, like our membership requirements. So yeah, you don't have to live in what has been deemed affordable housing. You just have to self-identify as low income. We don't check any income, we don't check your bank accounts or anything. It's all on the honesty policy. So we ask that you're 18 and over because we don't ask for background information. We ask that you self-identify as low income and that you live in the Portland area. And again, we make exceptions if you live outside of downtown. We have quite a few members who live on the east side and venture over here every week or every day even.
Awesome. And are your group meetings or events, are those posted on your website, or how do people learn about those?
Yeah, so our website has all that information. We also send out a monthly newsletter to all of our members that has a full calendar of events. And that is also accessible on the website.
Okay. And then one last question from me, but what about attending like the performances, the choir, the theater, that type of thing? If a
That's kind of it's a case by case scenario. Some of the, like with our choir, that's a lot of members in the choir. So if we allow them to invite 2 people to a performance, then we have a full house all of a sudden.
Got it.
Theater, we have a smaller troupe, so there's more of a possibility of having guests come. But as we expand, we're hoping to go and bring those out into the world, maybe rent a theater for those things so that we can just invite the public. That is
awesome.
goal eventually, yeah.
Awesome. Well, let us know when you do. I'll come. That'd be fun. Awesome. Any other questions for Shane?
Charity, I see your request. I'll send you my email.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Somebody wanted to volunteer for one of those like social visitations. How would they go about getting connected?
So you can definitely reach out to us through the website and we'll get you connected to the my supervisor who oversees the volunteer program. I would say that for the social visitation, it is a 6-week commitment. At which point we have some volunteers who've been visiting the same folks for over 5 years every week, but the commitment is only 6 weeks at a time. And so after 6 weeks, you check in, we make sure that the member is happy with the visitation, make sure the volunteer is happy with the visitation before they move forward.
Oh, go ahead, Preston. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying that's great.
Thanks for asking.
Is there a background check or anything that a volunteer needs to go through to participate?
Yeah, we do a background check. Thank you for asking that, Annie. We do a background check for volunteers and we do provide some training as well. There's some training around, how to be an active listener and how to de-escalate when someone starts spiraling, which does happen from time to time. So we try to get them as equipped as we can before we send them into apartments.
Perfect. That's great. Awesome. All right, Shane, thank you so much. Appreciate you and appreciate all the work you're doing. And I think you put your information in the chat. So if there's any follow-up questions, feel free, to reach out to Shane. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Okay, is Sarah Inamore on? Sarah, through the Street Trust? I know that she was stepping in for someone else, so we'll see. Okay. No, Sarah. Okay. Well, we'll move along to Caroline Pope with Care Oregon not Care Oregon, sorry. Portland Street Response. My apologies. Oh, goodness. Okay, Portland Street Response, and you're going to focus on Portland Street Response and behavioral health, is that correct today? No, or just?
No, that was a behavioral health is going to be a whole separate thing that I'm going
Got
to
it.
do with the
Yes.
county.
Awesome.
So yes, hello
Awesome.
everyone.
Welcome.
Good
Thanks for being
morning.
here.
Yes. I don't know all of you who don't have air conditioning if you feel as tired and out of it as I do. So if anyone's getting any good night's sleeps. Yes, let me pull up my slides here. Shane, I am in Old Town as well, so I hear you. It's I think we're neighbors down in Old Town, so I feel you for we need more love in Old Town Portland right now. So you know, if anyone wants to come come out to Old Town. I'm gonna pull up some slides. Annie, before I get started, what kind of time should we go for then?
So let's have you take Sarah's slot from till 10:30 or
Okay.
10:25-ish, and then we'll see if there's any questions.
Okay.
And then if Sarah's not on, we have Patricia also presenting with Help Me Grow. So we'll kind of adjust at 10:25.
Okay.
Does that
Great.
sound good?
So yeah, I'm
Okay.
with Portland Street Response. I have used to work at Care Oregon, so there was a confusion. I've kind of worn lots of hats in the social service world of Portland. So let me pull up my slides. Start from. All right, slides on. Great. All right, so yeah, I'll jump through these. I also will first, I'll give you all my email and let you know that I do a lot of presentations and I talk with a lot of community groups, and really my role is to promote Portland Street Response, answer questions, let people know how to use it best and how to partner with us. So please, if you want me to come to your organization, come to a staff meeting, do a presentation, please reach out, because that's what I like to do. And there's a lot of folks who have a lot of questions about how we function. And again, best like how to utilize our services. So here we go. So we've been around now, Portland Street Response, for over 2 years. So in March, it was our 2-year anniversary. And it was also our year anniversary of being citywide. So there's mobile crisis response teams kind of hopping up all over the country right now. It's a really, it's a great movement that's happening, and it's really needed. And it's addressing mental health crisis within the first response system. So our program is embedded in the fire department. Some programs are with the police, some are nonprofits, some are with the county. It kind of differs, but we sit in the fire department. So we are part of Portland Fire and Rescue, and we are activated through 911, specifically for mental health crisis response. Something that we hear all the time right now is all different people saying, well, I'm not a social worker. I don't know how to deal with this. I'm not a mental health crisis responder. I don't know how to deal with that. That's what, you know, police are saying and teachers are saying. And generally kind of anyone in the community kind of dealing with the world right now, I feel like it's feeling like that there's just a lack of mental health support. And that's where we come in. So our teams are made up of an EMT, and then a mental health crisis responder, and that's generally the core that's on our rigs. So if you've seen our rigs around, we have Sprinter vans that are outfitted with medical needs to help and do medical support in the field, and then our mental health crisis responder. And then we also work with a lot of peer support specialists and community health workers who do a lot of our follow-up work as well. And I'll touch on that in a moment. So a call comes through 911, and you can either request Portland Street Response initially, or the 911 dispatch will hear from your description that we would be a good fit. And these are for non-violent calls that are out in public. So we don't go into any private residencies. So this is outside or in a business. We also cannot respond in shelter at this time, or in like the safe rest villages. Those are considered private residencies, but we can respond right outside. So we do a lot of work with shelter. Maybe someone's been discharged from a shelter and is having, is having a hard time with that. We could come in and call and be outside there, but we can't actually go in. What we're seeing is the EMT, how crucial that EMT component is of the work that we do. And I think that our data is showing that there's a lot more medical needs than sometimes people would initially. That wasn't the reason for the call, but a lot of wound care, a lot of chronic health support. You know, think of it, especially with this weather right now, people are dehydrated, severely dehydrated, maybe having heat stroke. And because of that, that's when the mental health kind of comes into it. It's being escalated. So having that EMT support is really, really helpful and really, really crucial. So again, we exist within the 911 system. So this is a big change when we think about 911 and emergency management and first response. We've never had that mental health component. So it's a big change for the dynamic of the city and how we operate. You know, and we've had somewhat of a rough start, I will say, kind of getting the support that we need through the city to really do what we need to do. But that's kind of to be expected, again, because this is the first time there's been any changes to the 911 system in, you know, over 100 years. So we're really kind of switching the way that we look at trauma and the way that we respond to that. So all calls, again, come through 911, and then dispatch will decide that we're the best fit for it. If someone requests Portland Street Response and we're not available, dispatch will let the caller know that PSR is not available and then a police cruiser would come out. If at that point that's not what you wanted and you were concerned about police coming, you can cancel the call. So always know a call can be canceled, and dispatch will tell you who is going to be showing up for the call. Now, when you call, if any of you have ever called before, we'll get a phone number from the person who's making the call. And then when the PSR rig is out, you know, driving around to respond, they'll oftentimes call the caller to check in for any details. Sometimes things by then will have diffused. Maybe the person has left and you can't find them. So we'll be driving around asking for any more details, and know that a lot of times, you know, sometimes we just can't find the person. Someone can call for themselves. Someone can call for, you know, a neighbor or someone in their camp. Or oftentimes people are, you know, calling, they're just, you know, in the neighborhood and they see an incident that they feel like that needs to be called. So again, all through 911, which I'm going to say this kind of over and over again, because it is definitely a barrier and it can be hard to call 911. If any of you have called recently in the past few years, there can be a wait time, which is very discouraging. But we are still utilizing 911, and that's really our focus. You can go through the non-emergent line, but that's even a longer wait. If any of you have ever used that, sometimes you're looking at, you know, maybe a 30-minute hold time to get through the non-emergent line, but that is an option as well. But we're really telling everyone to go through 911. The Bureau of Emergency Management, which is the one to oversee 911, are really working to get more dispatchers and get more people trained. So going through them, they are trained, you know, the 911 dispatchers have gone through such an extensive training to triage calls and kind of discern what the right response is for the calls. And we really want to use their expertise to discern if this is the right call for whoever is going to respond to that. Also, since we're part of the 911 and the emergency response system, we'll sometimes co-respond with police or with fire if needed as well. And then they'll actually call us in for backup to co-respond. So maybe there is a car accident and the police are there, but they realize that because of the accident, someone is now having a pretty elevated anxiety attack and they need that mental health support. They'll co-respond with us and then we'll show up to offer that support there. So we work very hand in hand with police and fire. And what we're really doing is taking the calls off of the police queue. So the calls that we would be respond to in the past would have been police response, but we are showing up for that and generally having, you know, fairly good outcomes with, you know, offering de-escalation, offering resources, offering referrals if available, and not arresting folks. Not that that always happens, but we're not getting to that point, and we have some data to show that I'll get to. So of course we embrace trauma-informed care, and that's a shift in the first response model. Trauma in first responders is different. It's us here in social service land. We're very, we know trauma-informed care, and we know this language. But when you're in the fire department, trauma is, bleeding out of your artery and house is burning down. So it's a different type of trauma, but we're not saying one is more urgent than the other, really. Like, we really have to kind of look at the whole picture and approach everyone with a trauma-informed approach. Because we don't know the situation, we don't know what that person went through yesterday as a child, 10 minutes ago. We all are coming with our own experiences and our own backgrounds, and we have to just approach people with compassion and caring, I think, as much as possible. And a lot of folks sometimes seeing police or seeing fire in uniforms can have a real triggering effect for them because of past experiences. So having us show up, we're not armed. Our uniforms are just, generally t-shirts or hoodies that say Portland Street Response. We have that Sprinter van. So we're kind of coming with a whole different approach, using de-escalation methods, talking slowly, making eye contact, getting on the same level with someone. Those are all, approaches that we use when we're speaking with people. So these were our original program goals that the city came up with when the program was being developed. And this was, the first development was kind of coming in 2019. It was a program that Joanne Hardesty, a city commissioner, was really working closely with. And then after the summer of 2020, when the whole nation really came in this reckoning of a shift in how we were doing policing, that the program started becoming activated to start out in the Lents neighborhood. So these were our 3 outcome goals, and we're really effectively doing that. So we're really reducing the number of mental and behavioral health calls that the police are responding to. What we're seeing right now is probably one of our number 1 calls is what's called down and unchecked. So that's folks who maybe potentially have had an OD, or who knows. And what I like to tell folks, if you feel comfortable and you're concerned about someone, especially in heat like this, is maybe tapping someone's foot or just saying, "Hey buddy, are you okay? Are you awake?" Because time is really everything in those types of calls. So if someone really is, has had an OD and is not breathing, we need to move very quick on that. So if you feel comfortable, if you're walking around, and again, in this really high heat, encouraging people to get out of the sun into the shade, just kind of checking in and seeing if folks are still awake. A tap on the foot is always a good kind of less intrusive method on that. So these are our calls, a lot of examples, things that you can imagine seeing kind of just generally in Portland these days, and in most cities as well. They come through to us on what's called a CAD, which is a laptop that you would see in a police cruiser. They come through to us, and then we have that callback number, and then we have someone within Portland Street Response who is triaging the calls to see which ones are most needed. And again, it's kind of timing wise, where the rigs are located, and where how fast we can get out to people. Again, all stuff that we're really familiar with. We do not respond to anyone brandishing a weapon, anyone in the middle of like fast traffic, like on a highway or a busy street. Suicide ideation calls we will not be coming out for. And again, not in schools or homes or things like that. That is the police would be responding, or potentially the county, the mental health response through the county, which is Project Respond. So typical first aid that we do, welfare checks, again, substance use or intoxicated related calls, trespassing, disturbances. So maybe someone's, on your front porch or kind of around your house and you're concerned about them. We don't have a magic wand for anyone to get anyone to move if they don't want to move. So, or go to the hospital if they don't want to. So all of our services are voluntary. Someone has to be willing to work with us. This is some data from our last data poll that PSU did for us in the spring. And I think it's just good to kind of remember that, you know, we're taking about 650 calls a month, and we're 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Our next push will be a 24-hour call, which will be availability, which will be really needed. We've had a hiring freeze for the past few months. That should be lifting. We really need to up our weekend staff right now. We definitely need more staff. We usually have, on a high, we would have 6 rigs driving around at a time, but we have not had the staffing really to be at full levels like that. So quickly, I know our timing is, I guess 10:20, so I have about 5 more minutes. Our follow-up. So this is what makes our program really unique here in Portland, is that we have a very robust follow-up team. So we have CHWs, community health workers, and peer support specialists who work specifically in this follow-up care. So the way that works is there's a 911 call, we respond, we offer as much support, the medical support, de-escalation that we can at the time. We also offer resources at that time if they're available. Maybe we're able to get someone in a shelter that night, or if they wanted to go to the emergency room, if that was needed, get them a cab there, maybe get them some food, things like that. But then we also offer them the option for follow-up care. And that then is having more or less like a caseworker who would then be working with the individual for getting on housing lists, getting on organ health plan, finding referrals, getting regular food boxes, things like that. So that CHW can continue working with them kind of as long as needed. And that's where we've had a lot of success in getting people into housing, meeting their goals, working with them, again, to set up those goals. We're able to do some referrals into the Safe Rest villages, and then again, onto housing lists, things like that. So we can stay with the individual and kind of offer that support regardless of what other agencies they're working with, or until we're able to find a better fit with maybe with aging and disabilities, or with a different organization that can support them through that. So our follow-up team is about 8 folks right now, and they have a caseload of clients that they work with, and it all stemmed from that original 911 call. So those are our rigs that you can see around. There's been no incidents resulting in physical violence with any of our calls, and we're diverting the calls from the police queue, as I was saying before, the Portland Police Bureau. So that's really was one of the goals, and it's really working with that. And again, most of our calls are those welfare check right now, or unwanted person. So again, 911, which can definitely be, a hurdle for folks, but calling 911, you could either request Portland Street response, or you can explain the situation to the dispatch. And right now it's 7 days a week from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. And again, hope to expand to 24 hours, which will be really, really needed. Though there's not many resources available at 3 in the morning, there is a lot of crisis, of course, that happens, and there's just not enough support at that time. So having those rigs being able to come out at that time is going to be really, really needed for the city. That's it. That's my fast presentation. I know there's usually lots of questions, so please, if you have questions, I'd love to hear them, or if you've had anything you want to share, go for it.
Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like Layla has a question.
Hi, Carolyn. Okay, I know this area somewhat because I've worked with Portland Street Response, but before you came on board, Carolyn, and it's amazing what you folks do. Amazing. But so I put a couple of questions on the chat, basically, if PSR is unable to take a call, if the Portland Police, due to their staffing and stuff, they're unable, to take a case because of other priorities, then what happens to that case?
That's such a great question, and I think it's just nothing really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's when people are coming on the really long hold times, not only on 911, but response times. So yeah, I don't have I wish I could tell you something that there was
No,
another.
no.
But no, it's not. People are
Thank you.
waiting just far too long for support.
Do you know who the commissioner is that's responsible for Portland Street Response today?
That is Renee Gonzalez, yes.
Okay, great. What do you think are your challenges that you wish would get resolved to make your life so much more productive?
It's really staffing right now. We're just too low staff to respond. The need is so high. As you can see, we're responding to like 600 to 700 calls a month with a skeleton crew, and there's so much more. So now that 911 dispatch is kind of keyed into what we do, they would be sending us way more calls. So the need is so much higher. We've really created such a strong relationship actually with the police, and they see how amazing the work is that we do, and they would like us to come out on more calls as well. So they're really happy that when we show up, because they're like, again, you're the experts, you know how to do this stuff. Let's go out and do the things that we need to do, and you can kind of take it away here, because we don't have also the time constraints. We can stay with someone for half an hour to talk with them, to calm them down, to do that the police just don't have the timing for that. So we just really need to get staffed.
And I heard rumors that as far as funding for staffing and stuff, it looks really great for the new city government coming on board and what that means as far as resources for the city. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, we have been, there's been a lot of talk. It's interesting to have a job that's in the news all the time and in the paper. So you all probably read more than I hear from my supervisors, but we've been assured that we are staying in the fire department. So that is crucial to us. We're going to stay in the fire department and stay within the 911 system, because there's been talk about that. And I think we're seeing that they're lifting the hiring freeze. I see there's no job postings yet. I think they're coming, and I will share them with Annie when that comes up. We will be hiring for mental health crisis responders that are either licensed clinical social workers or have their QMHP or A. And then we'll also be hiring for EMTs, community health workers, and peer support specialists. That should be coming hopefully in the next month, I would say. Things can sometimes move slowly. Once we're up to staffing, the next step would be that 24 hours. So we have to be staffed before we can do that. And then once we're up to 24 hours, it opens up a lot more funding. You can get funding through the CCOs and through some Medicaid stuff. So that would be really a great move for us to just kind of have that. So I don't really know with the new transition with the city, I don't exactly know how that's going to fit for us, but I have been assured that we are staying in fire.
Great. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Yeah. I don't know. Ooh. Shane, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, okay.
How can we best support the Portland Street response from where we are?
I think continuing to use us as need be, and then I think just positive messaging. I mean, I know that there's a outside organization who is doing like a petition, and I don't really know what kind of effect that's going to have on city commissioners with funding. But I think continuing, we need to just, as long as our calls are coming in, we're needed, and we know that. So I think just sharing the word, you can always write emails to the mayor or to city commissioners expressing your support for PSR, letting them know how much you think it's a needed program and how it should stay part of the 911 system within the city. So always that, if you feel comfortable, writing out to mayors or any of the commissioners.
Thank you. And I just want to say, before Portland, I lived in Eugene, where in Eugene, they very much celebrate Whitebird and the services they provide, and it's so much a part of the community. And I'm hoping and praying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we were based really heavily on the Cahoots program, which is in Eugene, which was started in White Bird, and it's been going on for a long time there. So they're a really positive program, and I think we'll get there in Portland. I think it's just been it's just a rough start. Again, we're really new and we're really fresh, but I think that we can get there because we have a lot of support. We have a lot of support from on the national level too. So I do think that we can get there. Things, ebb and flow of things, but everyone knows that we need this mental health support and how crucial that is.
Very crucial. And thank you so much, Caroline, for all that you do and all that you bring to this program and this community. It's definitely needed for sure. So thank you. And then if anyone has any follow-up questions for Caroline, feel free to, I think you posted your information in the chat earlier. Scroll up a little bit and Caroline's information will be there. I think so. Yeah, if not, you'll post it. Awesome. Thank you again. Okay, next up we have Sarah and Amor. Did I say that correctly, Sarah? I think I saw you pop on.
Not even close, but that's okay. That's why people call me Sarah. It's Sarah Iannarone. Good to see you.
I spelled it incorrectly as well. So my apologies. I totally did not do that justice. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being here from the Street Trust. Welcome.
Well, and we're happy to be here, and it's such an honor to follow Portland Street Response as well. The Street Trust was one of the first orgs to sign on to the Friends of Portland Street Response recently. We really, really understand the need for safe streets for every single person using them, regardless of their housing status, regardless of the mode that they happen to be traveling around, and making sure that we're spending our tax dollars wisely and efficiently and through a public health lens. Because what we know at the end of the day is that people who spend the most time in our streets are the ones who are on the receiving end of what we refer to at the Street Trust as traffic violence, and that we need to make sure that people have safe infrastructure as they move around. So thanks for all you do, Portland Street Response. Very, very glad for your work. That said, my name is Sarah Iannarone. I am the Executive Director of the Street Trust. I'm here today to tell you just a little bit about our organization. We've been around since 1992. Some of you might have known us back in the day as the Bicycle Transportation Alliance. We were founded really by people who wanted to increase cycling safety in the city of Portland. But what we realized after a few decades of that work was that we were leaving a lot of people out of the equation. There are many people for whom bicycling is not a viable option. There are many people for whom it is not a safe option. And there are many places across our region beyond Portland and even across the state of Oregon who are underserved. And so we really needed to think differently about how we were going to address the intersecting, quite literally, crises on our street. And so we changed our name to the Street Trust. With a focus on making sure that we were investing as a community in streets that were complete and safe for everyone, regardless of mode. And we really expanded to look a lot at the greater Portland metro regional level. As you know, in recent years, as housing costs have really skyrocketed, especially in Portland's urban core, what we've seen is an intense amount of gentrification and displacement. And what that's done is actually increased the distances that people are traveling. It has made it harder for people to access the very, very good transportation options that the central Portland infrastructure provides for people. And so what we're finding is that the further we get, so if you get out into Clackamas or get out into Washington County, your bus stops, there might be fewer there. You might be lucky if you have a TriMet route anywhere near you as we get to the edge of the region. And then beyond that, what we've learned in recent years is that when it comes to transportation, the bacon, all that decision-making's happened in Salem. So we really have to make good relationships with our partner organizations around the state to fight for the investments that are going to save lives and increase prosperity for people across our communities. One of the things that we're thinking about in our methodology that I think is a bit different from the active transportation space historically is we're not trying to tell people to ride any certain type of way, or you should bike or you should ride transit. What we're really trying to do is listen a lot more. And so if you'll permit me to just share a couple of slides, I can show you some examples of the type of work and engagement that we're doing in ways that you might want to get involved with us. And from here, I got to make sure I don't lose my various Zooms. I can get lost in the Zooms. I don't know if you all feel comfortable using the chat, but one of the things we talk to people is that you should be able to get around and feel safe and feel like that option is convenient and accessible for you regardless of mode. And so we ask people, what is your favorite type of transportation to use? Is there some place that you've engaged with a transportation system that felt much better to you than things feel here? Often people will reference Asia or Europe as places where they've seen countries that have really robust investments in transportation, but also the jitney and what it means to have micro transportation. So if you've got some ideas that are exciting to you and there are things that you like, feel free to drop them in the chat. We don't have time to do a full listening session here today, but I thought we could at least demonstrate the types of questions that we're trying to ask the community. And then what we're doing is we're taking the feedback from the community up to policymakers in the voices of people who aren't generally represented in transportation decision making. And really, rather than saying this is what the experts think should be happening, we're saying this is what the community is saying they would like to happen. Because often the loudest voice, as you know, in many political processes, it can rise to the top, or the people with the most money and the most influence generally have disproportionate say in how certain investments will be made. And so what we're trying to really do is say, hey, listen, decision makers, if you want a prosperous economy, if you want a healthy society, if you want people to be able to access their jobs and education and families and healthcare, then we need to have a complete multimodal transportation system that's safe and accessible. But we also need to apply the lenses of racial equity and climate justice, and that will work better for everyone involved. So our nonprofit organization, we have about 10 staff at present. And we have a sizable board as well. We also have the Street Trust Action Fund, which is our political action committee, which when I put on that hat, I can tell you to vote for people in the coming elections who do things like fund sidewalks and bus stops in Portland Street Response. And then I can put back on my nonprofit hat and talk about the safety and education and other work that we're going to do. So we're really trying to attack the problem from all angles. And there is an awful lot of work to do. As you know, transportation is the leading source of greenhouse gas pollution in Oregon. It contributes to global warming. I don't have to tell anybody on this call what that's looking like in our lives. I think it was 108 degrees in my neighborhood out on the east side near Foster Road and 82nd Avenue. And I'm guessing it was hotter the further east you went where there were fewer trees. But many people don't understand that transportation for most Oregonians is the second highest household cost after housing. And so when something like gas prices fluctuate, that can really hurt lower income families in particular, because they don't have an income that stretches when things like transportation costs go up. Also, the average cost for just owning and operating a single occupancy, like personally owned vehicle in Oregon is probably about $12,000 annually per car. So when you think about that cost, and if a family had to have multiple cars that they personally own and maintain and put the gas in, pay for parking, that can be very, very expensive over time. Oregon is leading the nation. This is not a top 10 list that you want to be on. In 2022, we were in the top 10 states in the nation for pedestrian fatalities. And there's a recent prediction from the Governor's Highway Safety Association that's going to put Oregon in the top 3 in terms of the trajectory, the growth in pedestrian fatalities. And this is coming from a state that has a reputation as being somewhat transportation forward. So you can see the story about our transportation system is not exactly the same as reality on the ground. And we know that all of these factors, whether it's climate injustice, housing costs and household costs, pedestrian fatalities, traffic fatalities, and traffic violence, they disproportionately affect low-income BIPOC immigrant communities, youth, and older adults. So the people who are already the most vulnerable in our streets are the ones who are disproportionately affected by the poor system. And in fact, not on this slide, but something that we're looking at with a grant from ODOT is the fact that in Portland, 70% of pedestrians who were killed while walking in 2021 actually had a housing status of houseless at the time. And so when you think about that, all of these factors are contributing to the really epidemic levels of dysfunction that we have on our streets. So some of the things that we're doing, in addition to all the policy work and really fighting for money, because at the end of the day, when there are good things, you got to fight to keep them. And so we are trying to build a broad tent movement of people who love transportation options that work for everyone. We work hard on the Bike Town for All Ambassador program, which is getting low income and BIPOC community members onto those orange and now black shared e-bikes at no cost to them. We have the inclusive Bike Town, which is adaptive Bike Town. So people living with disabilities actually have access to mobility as well. We do WeBike inclusive rides, which are trans, femme, and women. So there will be a camping trip. As you know, trans rights are really under attack right now, and people are not always feeling safe. So we're actually teaching people how to go camping in groups by bicycle so they can access regional parks and recreation space through multiple modes. They can put their bike on the max and get to the edge of the region and then ride a little further and be camping in wilderness without having to even own a private automobile. We host the annual Oregon Transportation Summit every year, which brings together thought leaders, community members, nonprofits, governments to really hash through some of our biggest problems. We offer scholarships for that. Something that we're really excited about is we just got a grant from PGE to do a ride to own e-bike pilot program where we're actually giving low-income community members their own e-bike and working with them for a year on making sure they know how to ride it safely. They have all the gear, they have all the locks and the lights and even community support and challenges and games to keep them riding for the year. And that will be, one will be in Portsmouth neighborhood, one will be in Park Rose neighborhood, another one will be in Milwaukee and Clackamas County, and then the final pilot will be out in Hillsborough in Washington County. So you'll see that around the region. We do educate people running for office across Oregon. We put them through the Oregon Candidate Transportation School to educate them about the transportation system. You'd be surprised how many people are making decisions about transportation for you who don't necessarily understand transportation fully. So making sure that our lawmakers and policymakers really understand not just how a sidewalk becomes, installed on a street and all the various funding sources that make that possible, but why we might need sidewalks and how sidewalks contribute to things like better educational outcomes, because kids who walk to work or kids who walk to school actually perform better in school. And the more trees they have along that walk, even better. And at the end of the day, it's really about winning investments for better streets and a more complete system. And I'm going to show you some numbers. When it comes to talking about what we prioritize, you're going to hear a lot of people who shared Street Trust priorities of safety and accessibility and inclusion. But then when you actually look at the budget and how they're spending the dollars, they don't really align. So we're really working to get that systemic alignment. And obviously we can't do that alone. So we partner a lot. Strategic partnerships, working in coalition is one of the things that we consistently do. Making sure that folks who aren't historically represented in these conversations can have a seat at the table and that their priorities can be heard by decision makers is something we care about deeply. One thing that I thought I would flag for this group underway currently is Metro's Regional Transportation Plan update is currently underway. The public comment period is open, I think, through August 25th. Metro, as you know, is the regional government. It's very unique. We're the only place in the US that has a directly elected regional government that coordinates transportation and land use planning. And they work on making sure that all of the projects from around the region, from cities, counties, and even state level projects that are happening in our region are prioritized and they have the right funding they need from the federal government. So they are actually engaging the public in what types of projects they would like to see. And it's very helpful when they hear from the community that you want to see things like safer streets and projects like for people walking, biking, and trying to access transit around your city and region, because without those voices, then interests like the freight lobby, interstate commerce like Amazon, or even UPS are really guiding investments that are happening in our local places, but without necessarily our local input steering that conversation. So we've been trying to, as I said, talk with the community about the things that they would like to see. And so we've been out doing listening sessions with questions like this that are having people talk about what would make their commutes more enjoyable or productive. Again, so that we're not pitting any certain mode against another one, but that we're saying, what would you like? Not what you don't like, but what you would like, because a lot of times our public is not engaged in envisioning a future that they haven't been able to experience yet. And so transition away from a dysfunctional status quo to something we don't know yet can be a little bit challenging. So really basing it on the values and outcomes and experiences is something that we're trying to lift up for policymakers there. Again, here's another question about what an ideal transportation system would look like if it was actually working for your life and family. And what we hear mostly is that people want options. They want safe options. They want cheap options. They want options that are close. They like things like Max and, bus rapid transit, but they also want to be able to walk to the bus at their corner and have that be reliable as well. And they want to feel safe on it, regardless of where they are, whether it's crossing the street or waiting on a Max platform. And we really talk about equity, and not just with, aspirations, but how are we going to measure it? How are we going to understand where a history of disproportionate investments in transportation systems? Think about Albina, Lower Albina, and how I-5 really obliterated quality of life in that community. It's not just about a complete connected transportation system there, but what would restorative justice look like through investments that actually improved outcomes for people as opposed to harming people over time? And again, talking about transportation options there. So I think I can stop sharing my screen now. Oh, I wanted to get the next one because I wanted to show you when it really comes down to what's going on. That regional transportation plan update, when you look at how many projects are potentially going to be funded through that prioritization process, $25 billion. But then when you look at how it's broken down, there's quite a bit going just to the interstate bridge replacement project, which is admirable and needed. But I think we can actually think about that funding so that it doesn't increase the amount of people who are forced into automobile dependence, but who actually have greater options, especially when you think about the number of people moving around our region due to displacement. So there's a lot of ways, again, where if we're going to have priorities, we need to make sure that the dollars are lining up with those priorities. So I'll stop sharing there, and I can answer any questions for you, or we can have a conversation about transportation or things that are on your mind about ways we can all work together.
I love that presentation. Thank you so much. There's just so much happening right now in the conversations that I've been learning more about, just as far as input opportunities. I think our city is at this kind of pivotal point where there's a lot of change. And with that comes, hopefully, and it sounds like, Sarah, what you're talking about, just an increased opportunity to share your voice. And that is so, so important. And the work you're doing is so important. Thank you very much. It is. It's exciting to think about a future of diverse options for transportation that is equitable.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us here and allowing us to share that with you all, because at the end of the day, without the mobility that a transportation system affords, we kind of are all stuck, and you don't realize it until maybe temps go high and your Max breaks, or your car breaks down, or you're waiting on the bus stop and the bus skips you. I know that we've all had that feeling when you're waiting on TriMet and for some reason your bus just never shows up, and then you realize your whole day is messed up. And there's so many people for whom lack of reliable, affordable, safe mobility really affects how they're able to move around and just live a life that's peaceful and happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Spot on. Thank you. Any questions before we move along for Sarah? Shane has one. Go for it, Shane.
Hi, I was just curious, and I'm not sure if maybe you spoke to this a little bit, but I'm wondering how PBOT's budget shortfall is affecting your work in this next year. I know I just filled out the survey about how would you like us to change our spending? Would you like it to come from safety or roads, bridges? You know, like they're asking us to identify where we would like less money spent rather than anyway, there's a question in there somewhere for you. Sarah.
Yeah, I feel you. And I actually was talking, this future of transportation funding is one of the most critical that we're engaged in, and it's happening at every level. PBOT is a bit of canary in the coal mine insofar as they're the largest, like, non-state level transportation system in Oregon. You've got ODOT, obviously. You've got counties, but then you've got PBOT, which has a significant budget and system that they have to maintain. And when you look at what PBOT was looking at now in terms of, I think they were, I can't remember if it was $6 or $8 million budget shortfall this time, and they're projecting a $35 million budget shortfall next time, where jobs may or may not need to be cut. And then you've got a maintenance backlog that I think is in excess of about $5 billion. You really got to ask yourself how we're going to deal with this broken system. We collect revenue based on our reliance on fossil fuels, right? The gas tax. Also, downtown Portland and PBOT have been part of a system that was based on a lot of parking revenue. And we're not parking downtown the way we used to, nor should we want to be. Folks who understand land use, who understand traffic safety, understand that there are ways that we can manage demand for driving, for free car parking, that actually help us meet our climate and equity and accessibility goals. So we have to come up with new ways to pay for transportation at the same time that we're trying to move people away from automobile dependency, which we know is regressive. Even the gas tax is regressive. Whether you're rich or poor, you pay the same gas tax at the pump. So that's one of the most regressive ways to pay for a system. The problem is a bit of absence of leadership at every level. Again, not just PBOT, not just City of Portland, but all the way up to the state and even the federal government about how we incentivize certain projects and how things are funded. So an interesting conversation, as you know, there's multiple conversations underway at the state level. We just passed the Oregon Transportation Plan update that has us thinking differently about how we can even transition our state away from VMT, or vehicle miles traveled, which is pretty remarkable for the state level. So the things that we need to talk about are things like accurately pricing the right of way and pricing the system. So things like congestion pricing, dynamic parking pricing, making sure that the Amazons of the world are paying their fair share. What we've seen is commerce move from along main streets to the center of the street. So all that commerce is happening in our street, and we're not capturing that value, nor did we don't even have a sales tax here. So what does it mean for us to capture that value? Road user charges, VMT taxes, really making sure that everyone's paying their fair share in ways that are equitable. But what we consistently see is a regression to the status quo, where old systems try to pull us back, even as we're trying to explore new things that may be more just, more safe, more equitable. And so it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think encouraging your policymakers, whenever you do take that moment to weigh in on that PBOT survey or the Regional Transportation Plan update survey, or any statewide processes like the STIP or other things where public input can shape, I would say prioritize investments for safety for people walking, biking, and rolling, because at the end of the day, those serve all street users regardless of mode. As a motorist, you don't really want people without sidewalks who are walking by you. No one, whether they're driving an automobile or operating even a semi-truck, really wants to kill a pedestrian or cyclist. So really thinking about safety investments as benefiting all street users and not just single mode users. And then really thinking about having your leaders do a just transition off the gas tax, and really a more equitable way of collecting revenue. And then our final point is always aligning your budget with your strategic priorities. So if you tell me that your priorities are safety, equity, and system modernization, then your top 3 spending categories should be safety, right, equity, and system modernization, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that's a bit abstract, but at the end of the day, the more of us who are talking about that through those lenses and encouraging our policymakers to find a better future for us. I think that's what it's going to take to really reverse the trends that we're seeing on the ground right now with regard to traffic fatalities and people who can't access the system at all.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, Sarah, so much. This is such important work, and I don't want to move on, but I also want to make sure Patricia has a moment to share on her program. So, but thank you so much. Such important work. If you don't mind leaving your email in the chat so folks can connect with you afterwards if they have any follow-up. I know
I sure will. Thank you.
And I'll be reaching out to you. Thank you so much. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and Patricia Kavanaugh, I see you. Thank you. Patricia is with Help Me Grow, and Patricia will take the last few minutes. I'm sorry, we're running short on time, but go ahead. Thank you for being here, Patricia.
Well, thank you so much, Annie. Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation, the opportunity, and I'll be as brief as possible and also leave my information for any follow-up with agencies or individuals. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you could help me with just keeping track of anything in the chat, just so I can be able to do that. Are you able to see my screen?
Perfect.
Thank you so much. All right. So Help Me Grow here in the state of Oregon is actually a national initiative that was developed about 25 years ago. And so Help Me Grow is an affiliate state of a Help Me Grow national system. So for those of you who don't know anything about Help Me Grow or who do, we consist of 4 components that are very vital to our work: central access point, family community outreach. We have liaisons in the Tri-County areas, including Southern Oregon. And Help Me Grow is consisting of working with young children prenatal to age 6, wanting to support you and support families through transition to kindergarten. So Help Me Grow sits within Providence, the Swindell Center. And we work primarily with prenatal up to 18. It's a really nice sister organization, the Swindell Center, specifically working with families and children with special needs or experiencing developmental delays and disabilities. We all know on this call how the early years present a very incredible opportunity, right, to serve and help children, especially with their rapid brain development and those first few years of life. All children benefit from a well-organized system of community resources to help them thrive, like healthcare, a lot of what you're doing, high quality learning, and parent support. However, when the system is not well organized, it can be very difficult for families and for us, right, as providers. Especially with those really complex systems like early intervention, early childhood special education, which can have a long-lasting consequences on children's health. So we want to mask the complexity for families. Excuse me for a second. I have so many, did the slide advance? I'm not sure.
No,
it should be, okay.
I get it. It's hard to do it all while you're presenting.
All right, let me try one more time if that's okay. So anyway, yeah, let's see here. I'm gonna stop sharing and let's see here, get this going here. Okay. So anyway, just real quick, because I know we only have 3 minutes, I'll just go ahead and stop sharing and talk about Help Me Grow. So being a centralized access point, we're not just a program that provides services. What we're doing is we're including everyone that's on this call, all your services, all your programs, everything that you need that impact families prenatal to 6. And we are the central hub. So if a family calls us, we're going to connect them to everyone here if needed, or more. So our case coordinators, they're our navigators. They're working with families. Every family is unique, individual. They're very expert. They have a lot of expertise with motivational interviewing. We have a very bicultural, bilingual team that is going to really individualize those services for families. For instance, a family may call us because they're concerned with maybe their 4-year-old speech, but then we also hear that they don't have formula for their 6-month-old. So we're going to hold those 2 important priorities together and help out the families with those things. We also use an approach where we want to hear what the family prioritizes. They may get referred from their pediatrician or, some outside agency like you all here. And we also want to hear what's important to them, but individualize and work with them based on their needs. We work with families as long as they want. We're free. They don't have to have insurance. I mentioned our team is bilingual, bicultural, but we also have access to all the multiple languages that are spoken here in the prominent Portland and Southern Oregon areas. We're doing a lot of work right now with OHSU, working with children that are waiting for an autism diagnosis. We're also working a lot with the indigenous populations in Multnomah, really trying to identify those communities of color and underserved. And one aspect of Help Me Grow that's really interesting is we try to bridge the educational and the medical community together, because we all know that there's a very big disconnect with that. So we're also really working really closely with collecting data, because we want to identify what is needed here in Portland or the Tri-County Southern Oregon areas, and really advocate for those services and programs. So we're really here to help you. There's no criteria other than a family just having a child birth to 6, and any need whatsoever. There's no wrong reason not to call us. So I'll just end with that, because I know we have 1 minute, but I could send some flyers to you all. If you want another more in detail presentation or more information, feel free to reach out to us. Yeah,
That's great. Thank you, Patricia, so much. And I think if you can send some of your flyers over, I'll include them in the follow-up. And then also just a question. I know we're right at 11, so if you have to hop off to another meeting, feel free. But I just wanted to, I had a question and want to open it up for questions. If an individual, say, has a diaper need, is this a resource they could use to seek diapers or any infant formula or commodities, or just emotional behavioral health resources?
That's a very good question, Annie. We are working always on the social determinants of health, because that impacts a child's learning and well-being up to adulthood. Any needs, we get calls regarding diapers, formula, more complex need. I'm going to get evicted tomorrow from my house or my apartment, to my child, is getting kicked out of preschool for biting or throwing a chair at a teacher. I mean, really, it's anything and everything to do with the child. So we're actually the hub. So we're not providing those services.
Okay.
We are connecting the families, and we work with them until they get connected. We're not just a 211 saying, hey, call this agency, good luck to you and see you later. No, we follow up with another call. Did you get connected? Are you on a waiting list? And we work really closely with programs to do more like warm handoffs and whatnot, but really wanting to get those families connected. That's the goal of Help Me Grow.
Awesome. Awesome. Super good to know. I have heard of Help Me Grow, but I didn't know the details, and this is really huge. So I will be reaching out. I know that.
Thank you,
Anyone
Annie.
else have any questions for Patricia? Okay, my apologies for running out of time, Patricia, but this is such an important program. I know I get messages all the time asking for diapers or youth resources in some way or another, or rent support for new moms. So this is something I will definitely tap into as well.
Great. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you so much for being here. All right. Thank you all for presenting such important information and doing such incredible work, to our presenters and to all of our attendees. All of you are doing incredible work, and I just really value and appreciate you. And yeah, just very thankful for all of you. I hope you stay cool. It is hot. Be careful, and know that we have all of the cooling shelters posted on our social media. So share that and stay safe and have a good rest of your week. Thank you again. See you soon.